So hello and welcome. This video is about driving. Now, probably thinking, what's so special about talking about driving? This is a car channel after all, and driving is going to be one of those subjects that will inevitably come up. But have you actually stopped and thought how incredible this act of driving is? There's a chance you have. I mean, if you're watching this, you're probably a driver yourself. You enjoy driving and you enjoy cars, and that's why you're watching this channel. Now, I think you can probably sum up the appeal of driving, for those who enjoy it, in two words, and that's freedom and fun. Now, the freedom part is not to be mixed up with convenience. You may not actually enjoy driving, but you like the fact that you can get somewhere very quickly that you would otherwise take a long time to get to. Like, for example, a commute. I remember when I was commuting 50 miles or 80 kilometers a day, it took me just about under an hour by car. Whereas if I took the combination of metro, train, bus and or taxi, then it would have taken me about 2.5 hours. So it's a lot more convenient to drive. But that's not what I mean. What I mean about freedom is the ability to get into a car at any time and go wherever you want. Now just stop and think how incredible that is. I'm right now in my car on a weekday morning, and if I want to, I can go right now. If of course I didn't have a workplace to show up to and a family to take care of, I could go wherever I want as long as there are roads to get me there. I could be in France by dinner time. I'm in Portugal, by the way, for those who have never watched the channel before. It doesn't matter if it's raining or if it was night time, or if it was snowing, if it was windy, or whatever. I could go there, no problem whatsoever. And just think how lucky you are, if you're like me, if you're able to do that. If you have the means, of course. This is something that was out of reach for most of humanity, for our existence as a species. I mean, if we go back just 10,000 years. Why? Because that's when the last ice age ended, and you could probably move around the land without freezing. You could not, on a whim, just go to, for example, the next village. That wasn't possible. If you did, where would you eat? Who would give that food to you? Where would you sleep? Would you be murdered by bandits along the way? Or would you be accosted by, for example, the king's soldiers, and they ask you, what are you doing out here? And you say, I just feel like going out to the village. You'd be arrested and thrown into a dungeon for the rest of your short existence. You couldn't go at night, you couldn't go when the weather was bad, and that's probably why most humans who have lived were born, have lived and died in the same place for their entire existence. Now, even if you were a bit more wealthy and had some more resources at your disposal, it still wouldn't be exactly a huge amount of fun, because it would take a very long time to get to where you wanted to go. Yet here I am, the 21st equivalent of a peasant, and I'm hurtling along at speeds that kings and emperors for thousands of years before me never experienced. Now, the 21st century part is actually something that has to be taken into consideration, because if this was like 30, 40, 50 years ago, I wouldn't have the infrastructure that exists now that allows me to do this. For example, I've got a house in the country. It takes me an hour and a half to get there. If it were back in the 80s, or maybe even the early 90s, it would take me about 5 or 6 hours to get there. And if it was in medieval times, it would take me 5 days. So if you do enjoy driving, and if you're ever feeling a bit down, then just remember, you are part of a very, very small group of humans over the course of all the people who have existed and are still alive today that can jump into their car and go wherever they like. That's pretty amazing, and that's pretty lucky. But anyway, we have to talk about the other aspect that makes driving such an attractive proposition, and that's the fun. Now, I think most people equate the fun in driving to going around corners very fast, or even in a straight line, in a car that may or may not be suited for the purpose. And on paper, we shouldn't like it. We should be scared out of our minds. But that's the thing. Us humans like to be scared because it releases adrenaline. Think of roller coasters and horror movies. That adrenaline rush that comes from driving is because your brain knows it's in a risk of being in an accident. So it releases the adrenaline, and the adrenaline releases endorphins and dopamine. And so that's why driving fast is so addictive. And then there are people like me, who I think are the vast minority. And that's people who like to drive slowly. And, well, just appreciate the car, really. I mean, that's what I got a Citroen for, because it's so comfortable and refined. And I can drive a long distance, appreciating my surroundings. And also I can put some music on the radio and have a soundtrack to that experience. And something else that I also like to do is to get the best average possible. And that's why on this channel you've got lots of videos dedicated to economy runs and such. Now that's pretty weird, but oddly enough, that's the way that I have fun. Honestly, this is fun to me right now. Just sitting here appreciating the car. In all honesty, I like this so much that it would be something that I wish I could do every single day for the rest of my life. If it was up to me, if there was such a job, you know, I'd just sit here and drive along the open road to my heart's content. That would be brilliant. But unfortunately, that will probably never happen. I kind of doubt it. I think probably the only path to that would be if this channel were to be tremendously successful. But of course it isn't, because I mean, you've seen the content of this channel. It's nothing brilliant. I don't think thousands of people would watch it every time. I probably would, but I'm weird, as I've already established in this video, because I like to drive slowly. But the thing is, there's a chance that driving may become a thing of the past in the future, at least for us humans. So you're probably already seeing where I'm going with this, and that's autonomous driving. What if autonomous driving suddenly takes over and we can't drive anymore? First thing, I doubt that's anything that's on the horizon, at least not in the near future. Why? Because self-driving just isn't there yet. Full self-driving just isn't as safe as, for example, Elon Musk touts it to be. Not by a country mile. In fact, you know, the internet is awash of videos of his Teslas, you know, with full self-driving nearly crashing. The thing is, why is it called full self-driving? Between brackets, supervised. Then it's not full self-driving, is it? This sort of thing really leads to autonomous vehicles having a very bad reputation. I mean, with all of this, I certainly wouldn't trust being in one. So even if the technology does evolve to a point where cars are, as they say, level 5 autonomous, which means absolutely no human intervention, I doubt people will trust these cars, and that's probably going to be the biggest obstacle for its mass adoption. So I don't think there's a threat to driving manually like I'm doing now from autonomous vehicles. What I do think will bring down the number of drivers on the road is the fact that most younger people aren't really that interested in just driving. In all honesty, I don't blame them. So first off, they've all got Ubers and things like that, which are very practical. You know, just call someone, they'll drive you to a place. You don't have to worry about parking or anything like that, or having to drive through congestion. Someone else can do it for you. And it's probably actually cheaper than owning a car in some respects, because you won't have to have a monthly payment nor pay for petrol or insurance or anything like that. And that's especially useful if you live in a city. You don't have to worry where you're going to park the car, etc. And the thing is, cars are very expensive. And younger people today, they don't have money to buy houses, let alone a fancy contraption like a car. Anyway, for the time being, all the infrastructure for driving is in place, the roads, the petrol stations, etc. So I think us drivers who like to drive just for the sheer pleasure of it will be able to do so for many years to come. At least fingers crossed. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'd like to know what you think. What makes you like driving? Is it the fast and furious side of it, or the nice, calm, let's take it easy side of it? I really would like to know. All feedback is appreciated. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please leave a thumbs up. That would be very nice. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please share, etc, etc. And I hope to see you in a future video. Farewell. And I hope to see you in a future video. I bid you farewell.